This is a screencast on how to use a range of reference materials and use them to identify language features. Now, the key thing to remember in this whole thing is, in terms of finding information in any reference resource, is HHS. How is the information, how is info organized? Looking for clues the way is it in columns, is it in rows? Does it use tables? Does it use a table of contents? Does it use an index? All those kinds of things. Headings that are used, and then skim and scan for the information that you require. Reference materials, before we move on, are text that we tend to just dip into when we need information. They are not text that we read from cover to cover. And the other thing too is they are all factual. It's a very key part of it. So let's have a look at an example of how these strategies work in action. So before we start, we just need to look at the criteria. So if we look at multistructural, you can find the answer. To get relational, you have to be able to provide evidence from the text. In the text it says, and then was this the best strategy? Fixed and abstract, evaluating how well you've gone. Was that the best strategy used? Why or why not? So was the H really good that you used, the first H, in terms of finding the information? Was the headings useful, or was the skim scan? So there's only 3 of them. So if we have a look at the first one here, we needed to find in an atlas Turin. So the first thing we started to look at was what the answer was, and you can see here that there's grids, there's page numbers, there's lots of grid letters, number, readings, page numbers. So immediately we've started to look at how the information is organised. This helped us to find the next one, Bulgaria, page 35, G5. Okay, make our thinking relational because it says in the index in the back of the book. And then here, this little reflection up here is to do with this. So we used how well did we go here, we skimmed and scanned, we used the page numbers, and we followed coordinates, and they went pretty well. So that's the progression. Let's have a look at that in relation to addiction. It's the same progression. Whoopsie. So we looked at the word continue. Okay, and we noticed that before we started that the information was alphabetical and it needed a heading. It was on page 86. Then we did another example. We did monkey. It was on page 282. And then because it says so in the text, absolutely. And the last piece, we felt that we used them all well and it worked well. So those are the progressions that we need to be looking at when we do this particular thing. So remember, HHS, how is the information organised? Headings, skim and scan.